Hello there. I almost thought you wouldn't show up, but you're always there. This world is full of an obsession with view counts, statistics, likes, and genuine popularity. It can be so hard to be seen. But I know you're always there, despite the false reality of it all, because you're in my head.
Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. So if that intro was if you think I need to be committed to a mental institution, then that means you haven't watched Mr. Robot, and you should go watch it so you know why that was just a beautiful fan dedication and not an actual testament to my mental state. So in today's video, I thought we would discuss Mr. Robot. And if you haven't watched it yet, I suggest joshing on over to Amazon and watching it, because this video contains massive spoilers. Like, I'm going to be talking in depth about everything that happens. So if you haven't seen it and you don't want to know how it ends, you might not want to watch it. So I'm gonna sit back and get super comfy today. Let me zoom in. So welcome to my office. I've got my llama here. Let's get super started. So I started watching Mr. Robot when my fiance dude, Luke, was like, hey, you wanna watch this critically acclaimed show that just won a bunch of awards? And I was like, Mr. Robot, what is that even about? And then he's like, it has Rami Malek in it. And I was like, I'm listening. We thoroughly binged it. There are 4 seasons, 10 episodes a season. The last one has 13 episodes. So that is a lot of hours of watching, but we watched it every night when we could. I'm gonna overall say it was a masterpiece. There's only a couple things I wish hadn't happened. Otherwise, I think it was perfect. No show will please everyone. So I'm sure some people think it was perfect how it was. Other people hated it. It just starts out with Elliot, the main character, who you think just struggles with severe, crippling anxiety, social anxiety. You know, he's clearly challenged in some kind of way. It's not very clear what his mental issues are, but that he just has some mental issues that were probably there from birth that he's been struggling with. And you think you can tell by the way the people around him talk to him that it's nothing new. It's kind of just part of how he is, unfortunately. And then by the end of the series, you realize he was a perfectly normal guy the whole time. And you find out he has a dissociative split personality disorder. And who he is perfectly normal. He was trauma-based. He wasn't born with it. He had a highly traumatic set of things happen to him that created his disorder versus having, like, being born with it. So he's not schizophrenic. He had, he was abused by his father. Again, you don't find this out until towards the end. He was traumatized by his father doing something to him I will not say on YouTube, and it caused him to have this split personality where he sees his father as this person he wished his father had been, and sometimes that personality takes over and he would have lapses of time where he, you know, of course, couldn't remember what happened. I think this played out very well, and I wonder if they knew it was going to go there the whole time, or if the writers decided how they were going to conclude the series like that. Like, I wonder if, okay, I'm gonna get rid of the llama. I can't take myself seriously. I can't decide if he was supposed to just be struggling mentally in the beginning and that was who he was, and then they decided to make it what it was at the end, or if they knew from the beginning, this is what we intend for the show, this is how it's gonna go, this is exactly, we're going to reveal at the very end it was because his father abused him that he's like this, not because he was just born this way, kind of thing. Assuming that they played it out this whole time with knowing how they were gonna end it, brilliant. I love how they explained at the very end, because you felt like something was off the whole time with his family. I do think it was just absolutely brilliant the way that they described at the very end in his own mind why he was the way he was. Because you're wondering through all these seasons, why is Elliot like this? And they explain it at the very end that he has an actual dissociative personality disorder due to trauma. And I think that that is very, very interesting. And I think that, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a crier Like, I'm not incapable of crying. As I get older, I'm finding it much easier for some reason. I sat there and cried like a baby when I watched the last scene. And it was the most satisfying ending to a show that I can remember seeing. The only thing I'm gonna say, I think Mr. Robot would have been perfect if they had let Angela live. There's so much left unanswered, so I'm just gonna go by each character. With Elliot, I think that one thing I'm glad of, I don't know why, but I'm glad that he never actually ended up murdering anyone, because when I love a character and they end up doing something really bad, it makes it hard. Like, I feel like I almost can't keep rooting for them, which is kind of how I feel about Darlene. But with Elliot, like, except for when he kills himself in his, like, when he thinks he's in White Rose's simulation and he's just in his own mind. I'm not counting the cyber bombings because he had no idea. He technically didn't organize that, and even Mr. Robot genuinely thought the building would be evacuated and that it would just be one building. They thought no casualties would happen at all. And they didn't know thousands of people were going to die because of something they did, because they were manipulated in every meaning of the word. So Elliot really, even though he did some bad things, especially with Olivia, it was all that other personality. It was all the mastermind that would stop at nothing for the greater good. Willing to do all of these horrible things for the greater good, because he really thought it's like all these small bad things happening were worth it to change the world, to make the world what he thought it should be. I really think Elliot is a great, complicated, complex character with a lot of redeeming qualities, and he got a perfect ending. Except for, man, was it hard to watch him in his own mind trying to find Angela, and then, you know, realizing that he never was really going to find her. Oh my gosh, that got me. Now, with Darlene's character, I feel so uncomfortable with the whole, like, Darlene murdered the woman who was responsible for letting E-Corp off the hook. But Darlene clearly doesn't know what her father did to Elliot, or she probably would have been happy he died, because Darlene has such a sense of loyalty to her brother that Elliot even goes on a spiel about this towards the end, is that there are those people that no matter what you do to them, they refuse to let you push them away. And I think he was specifically talking about his sister. I think that is a really redeeming quality for her, and she went through a lot. The thing with Cisco really bummed me out, because I feel like even though she was horrible to him, Darlene has, I think, a darker side than Elliot does, in my opinion. I think much darker. Elliot, you could see he could never kill someone. He just couldn't. But I just can't believe she actually did that, and you know, she hated herself for it, but she still did it. And she did it because she blamed this woman for being so evil to her family in such a tragic time, and for being an overall evil person. So yes, this person that she killed was evil. You can't fight evil with evil. And I feel like in a weird way, especially real Elliot knew that, even if Mastermind Elliot might have struggled with that. And I just really hate that they did that with Darlene's character, that she actually killed off someone. And I don't think they showed her reckon with it enough. Like, they did show her show remorse for doing it almost immediately, but still, and like they showed Elliot lose his mind when he found out that his little sister actually killed someone. But the thing is, to me, that shows that there is no way Darlene knew what her father was, or else she wouldn't have been angry enough over his death to kill someone over it. So leave me your input below. Do you think she knew, or did she not? Because Elliot never tells her. Like, she wants to know what's going on. He's like, I just can't tell you, because, I mean, how do you tell your sister? 'Cause she was so much younger than he was when the abuse was happening. She probably never witnessed it and didn't understand it. She did recognize, well, you hid it when, you know, the whole thing about Elliot jumping out of the window to get away from his father. He hid her in the closet, and she knew that she was being hidden in the closet. It never shows if she understands why. She's known Elliot to have mental issues from that day on. And so since she was so young, I'm thinking she wasn't old enough to put two and two together, that he wasn't always that way. He was like that because of that day. I don't know. I just find that very unclear, and I think she wouldn't have done what she did if she had known. Because their mother horribly mistreated them, and she hated their mother because of that. So that makes it very clear. She had known what her father was, but I'm pretty sure Elliot was only supposed to be 8 when their father died. So Darlene had to only be maybe 4 years old. I don't know, maybe she just doesn't know what was going on and Elliot decided to just never give her the burden of knowing. I'm gonna move on now to Dom, because even though, I mean, there's a lot of characters to discuss, I think Dom is so interesting. And fun fact, we were watching the show and I was like, wow, that actor looks and sounds exactly like Meryl Streep. It's kind of freaking me out. Like, carbon copy, that's so weird. And Luke was like, I don't see it. So I was looking up the cast a couple weeks later after already watching multiple seasons, and I realized it's one of Meryl Streep's daughters. I didn't even realize she has kids. She has 4 kids. You know, I wasn't sure if cloning was a real thing, but now I'm definitely positive she had her children cloned of her. That actress is amazing. Her name is Grace Gummer. So talented. I like Dominique's character, but what I want to know, so they show her, I know the whole, what they're trying to convey. They show her get on the airplane. She sees Darlene isn't there. And you can tell on her face she knows that Darlene had a panic attack and didn't get on the plane because she was thinking she had to go by herself. So she knows, wow, okay, Darlene bailed. But she goes anyway. She doesn't say, I need to get off or whatever. She goes. So I'm guessing she went on to Budapest and has a great time and comes back home and realizes that she let go of all the stuff she needed to let go of, and then her family's fine, and she explains everything to the FBI and is off the hook. That's what I'm gonna guess happens. As far as Domlene, I want to ship it, but there's just a lot behind it I feel like is really like, Dom was literally going to kill Darlene for a second there, literally shoot her to save her own family, and then all of a sudden they're gonna go to Budapest together. Like, if they just had a normal fight, then I'd be like, yeah, Domlene for the win. But because of like that scene where she knocks her upside the head, I don't know, it's hard for me to ship a couple where one of them literally considered killing the other no matter what the reasoning was. And I mean, again, that's a nice happy ending. I overall ship them for sure. I just can't get over the whole you almost killed her thing. I am really sad about Trenton and Mobley. I love the thing where Elliot decided not to kill himself because of Trenton's little brother. I'm gonna move on already to White Rose, because this is just such a huge thing to try to unpack. So we've got this mastermind criminal that started out as just someone who was very good in tech and wanted to build an empire with that and move to America, and he and his partner were not allowed to be together in China. And so he wanted to take his partner and move to America, or his partner wanted to move to America where they could be themselves and just live a happy life. And because White Rose was so obsessed with changing the world, kind of like Elliot, they end up connecting later on that level, and White Rose has this bizarre connection to Elliot because he sees that like vigilante, we must fix this instead of run away from it mindset. He takes a job in China, in Beijing, instead of in America like he had promised his partner. And once that happens, his partner just knows, if you're not going to get out of here with me, this is how it's always going to be. And he hates his life and he hates everything because his father was marrying him off to some woman he didn't want to be with. He wanted to be with White Rose, and so he kills himself. And White Rose is like traumatized and becomes obsessed with the idea of bringing people back, because all he ever wanted was to be with his partner again. So like, I don't know, 30 something years pass, and he is still, that's all he cares about. And he becomes like the leader of the Dark Army, which is a group of hackers that are like also like foot soldiers. I'm still not clear on what the whole machine was supposed to be, and Luke pointed out something that I will give him credit for saying. It's not, what the show writers did was very brilliant in the way that it's not important what the machine was supposed to be. All that was important was how it affected Elliot, which was the point of the story, and how it affected what was happening. It was never really about what the machine does. Whatever it does, though, I think they're implying it worked, because Angela went crazy after being exposed to it. So I don't know if White Rose somehow brainwashed her and did something, gave her a crazy drug, I don't know, did something to make her hallucinate seeing her mom again, or if the machine actually worked. And so White Rose brought her to the simulation. But here's what I'm having a hard time understanding all this. Elliot's sole goal was to take down the top 1% of the top 1%. That makes sense. He wanted to redistribute the wealth. I understand they do that in the end. That was the main goal, the whole 5-9, everything was to take down E Corp, to change the world, and to get vengeance for his father dying because of the toxic waste, because he had blocked out what his father did to him. So in his memory, his father was this great guy, and he doesn't remember until the end what actually happened to him. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have cared. Because of the trauma and the dissociative identity disorder, he just thinks he has this whole memory of who his father was that's completely fabricated. Literally created all his own memories of this person that was not how they were at all. And so I know he wants to just take down Evil Corp and take down all of that. Then once he finds out that White Rose was actually the puppeteer in all of this, that White Rose was really in charge of Evil Corp, that behind all of this was the Deus group, he wanted to go after White Rose. And I feel like he could have almost made peace with as far as he had gone until they killed Angela. And that was now even a stronger motivator than he'd ever had, that he just wanted to take down White Rose. If it wasn't for that, let's say Angela had lived and he'd gotten his fair vengeance by taking down E Corp, I can't imagine why, if this machine worked, why would he want to destroy it? Wouldn't he want something where he could go back and see people that he'd lost? Like, I don't know why you would. I understand wanting to destroy White Rose, but you'd think you'd just want to find a way to take down White Rose without destroying the machine, because that machine seemed like it could have like brought a lot of relief to people who wanted to see people who were gone. I don't know. But I don't know, maybe I'm just not understanding this really. Did the machine ever work? Please let me know below. Comment below. Do you think the machine ever really worked? I think it did, because if it didn't, White Rose wouldn't have killed herself. If it wasn't for that, then they wouldn't have shot themselves, you know? Like, they had to know, because they said to Elliot, like, I will show you it works. And the machine blew up right before Elliot could have ever found out if it worked or not. So we never will truly know if it worked or not, but I can't imagine that if White Rose went that far, it had to have worked. And that's why Angela went crazy. Angela didn't really go crazy. When she kept saying they can come back, it's because she genuinely was brought into a simulation where all of the people were back. And I think that's why White Rose was so easy to kill people, because they got into this disillusion that no one ever really died. They could just step into their simulation and everything would be perfect. So everyone became expendable, because it was almost like, well, just on the outside world they're gone, but they're always right here. That's easy peasy. And it just makes the character so complicated, of this mad person who is so detached from reality. I think Elliot didn't believe the machine worked, and he wanted to destroy it because he knew it would destroy White Rose. We know Elliot's sole goal is to take down White Rose, but also, like, if this machine really worked, it'd be his only way to ever see Angela again. And so I don't know. It's, was he willing to not see anyone ever again because he was so bent on taking down White Rose that nothing else mattered? Everything else was a casualty? I don't know. This video is going to be very, very long, and I could keep talking about the show probably all day, so I'm just gonna put a lid on it here. But yeah, overall, I really loved Mr. Robot. I thought it was a wild ride, and I'd like to go back and rewatch some of the episodes knowing how it ends, because I have a habit of, like, I just have to binge through it, find out how it ends, and like I just have to know, and then I can go back and digest. Like, I thought the most brilliant thing ever was how you think he is just living at his mom's house and all this wild stuff randomly happens, and then the whole time he was in prison. They didn't really have to do a lot of what they did. You could tell they were extending the series by putting all these subplots, because you could have gone straight from what happened with the 5/9 to the cyber bombings to the end, and it could have been only 2, maybe 3 seasons, but they extended it all the way out to 4 because they put in all these side stories. Like, the whole thing about prison, if that had never happened, it wouldn't have changed the story that much, but I loved it. Like, I thought it was great, so I'm very happy they did it. I can just see the parts where they put in these stories that overall add to his character, but they didn't really do anything to get to the end conclusion. Like, we had the beginning and the ending, and they could have just gone together without all the middle stuff, but I loved all the middle stuff. One thing I really didn't like that I thought was a waste of time was the side story with the crazy drug dealer man. I can't remember his name for some reason off the top of my head, but the one that kills Shayla in the beginning, and his own brother, that guy. I just thought that was, it felt like a Breaking Bad villain, which I love Breaking Bad. Actually, Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are in my top 5 favorite shows of all time. I just think it belonged in that kind of show. Did not fit with this huge, crazy, complex villain of White Rose. This little side guy just felt a little bit obnoxious. Elliot never would have realized his trauma that he went through if it wasn't for this guy, but they could have done it in another way. And especially in the beginning, like the whole thing with Shayla, what did that have to do with the rest of the story? Like, it would have fit, like I said, in a different show. It was a very classic Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul type of villain, and I just don't see how it fit into Mr. Robot. But that's pretty much my, I don't want to say criticism, who am I to like criticize anything, you know? But I'm just saying, as a viewer who really loved the show, I just don't think that part fit, and I could have done without it. The last thing I want to say before I close out this video is that one of my favorite parts about Mr. Robot is also one of my least favorite parts, and that is you never really know what things happened and what things were in his head. There are countless instances of things that we will never know if they actually happened or if Elliot imagined or hallucinated them. The whole thing with Tyrell, he was one of my favorite characters, even though he was a murderer and he was a villain. He was entertaining, and I loved the bonsoir Elliot. I don't know, that was just one of my favorite types of villain, and the very like suit and tie, but also crazy. I loved Elliot's alternate reality where Tyrell was like a super chill dude in a hoodie that was like nice. Ugh, his wife gave me the creeps though. She just literally, she made my skin crawl. What do you think it was that Tyrell saw in the woods before he died? The glowing purple thing. And what do you think that animal was that Tyrell heard and that Elliot later again hears when he's in his own mind? What do you think that was supposed to be? I think it was all symbolic. They both heard the animal though in real, that was real. That was one of the things that really happened. Some people said that the glowing purple thing was an homage to the Windows blue screen of death, but it was purple, it wasn't blue. So I think it could have just been like a last moments of life hallucination of something. The lines of the show between almost paranormal and technology are so blurred. Because White Rose's machine, if it really did work, to me that borders the paranormal more than it borders just technology that's insanely advanced. But then again, you know, I'm gonna say, if we went back even 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and showed someone in 1700s a cell phone, they would probably think it was paranormal. Like, how am I seeing this person on this glass? Like, they wouldn't believe it was real. So if I think about technology like that, then maybe I could believe there are insane advances that don't seem in any stretch of the imagination possible. Well, people also thought that about an everyday cell phone. What I'm doing right now, they would have thought about that. So maybe it was all technology. This is probably gonna be one of the longest videos I've ever posted, but I really hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on Mr. Robot. And I also hope that you'll have a conversation with me below. I'd love to get some conversation going back and forth. So if you guys want to comment, I will be there to discuss this with you. Wait, don't forget to give me a like, leave those comments, and please subscribe. If every person who watched my channel would just actually subscribe to me, then like it would literally help my dreams come true. Like just subscribing to someone, I don't think you really realize how much it helps. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.